Okay, I'm going to tell them to go live now. Give it about 15 to 20 seconds, First Lady.
Okay. Okay. All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our latest installment of our Ask an Expert series. Before we get started, I want to share some incredible, exciting, groundbreaking news. This morning, my husband and best friend, Governor Phil Murphy, signed legislation to offer every single new mom in our state the choice to be visited at home by a nurse within 2 weeks of delivery. Through Nurture and Jay, we've been working for 3 years to tackle our maternal and infant health crisis in this state and making steady progress. But this is a giant leap forward, and I could not be more thrilled or proud to see New Jersey at the forefront of maternal health care. Thank you so much for allowing me to share that exciting news. And now back to our regularly scheduled program. This is our 12th episode, and today we will be deviating a little bit from our usually close focus on maternal and infant health to another topic of great concern for moms across New Jersey, and that is early intervention. As a new mom, it's very natural and common to wonder if your baby is growing and hitting developmental milestones that doctors, parenting books, and well-meaning family members tell us to keep an eye on. All babies grow and develop at their own pace, but these milestones can also be key indicators that a baby needs extra support, and that is where today's experts come in. I would like to welcome our 5 guests today, and it is my pleasure to introduce Sheryl Maniar, a pediatric physical therapist from Children's Specialized Hospital, Theresa Perazzelli, an occupational therapist from St. John of God Community Services, Dan Steinhauser, a physical therapist from the New Jersey Institute for Disabilities, Susan Evans, the early intervention state coordinator at the Department of Health, and Marsha Debow, the manager for rehabilitation services at Virtua Health. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to be together with us today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump right in with our first question, which is for everyone. Many viewers may not be familiar with what an early intervention professional does. So can you tell us about how you joined this line of work and about your role in working with children and families? Sheryl, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. So I became a physical therapist 21 years ago, and I devoted my entire career to pediatrics. In around 2007, I was drawn to the early intervention program, mostly because of its mission. I was moved by its mission to work closely with families, to empower the families to be the agents of change in their children's lives, and to watch these children grow and meet their optimal potential. So I've been in EI since then, and my role as an early interventionist is to educate parents and caregivers on what are the developmental milestones and to help them with strategies to help promote those milestones. As a PT on the team, specifically my role would be more so to promote independence with their child's mobility.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Theresa, how about you?
Hi, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to talk about early intervention, First Lady. And I think my family's equally as grateful that I'm not talking to them again about early intervention. But yeah, I just like Sheryl, I was involved with pediatric work as an occupational therapist right from the beginning. After I had my daughter, I kind of wanted to change a little bit. I think being in pediatrics, I really thought I knew everything there was to know about a child, and was totally unprepared for what it was like to be a mother and to worry and to just care so much about how they're doing. So that's really where I kind of fell into this place of working more with the family and really supporting caregivers and feeling good about what they're doing to help raise their child.
What a nice feeling. Okay, Dan, you're up.
All right, thank you. Honored to be here today. Thank you very much. I began in physical therapy in 2001, and I was working in a hospital where we piloted a pediatric outpatient program. And one of the children I worked with, I really developed a strong bond with him, and the mother told me about early intervention and asked if I would be able to work with her child in early intervention. And she actually helped me get started there. And seeing the difference between what I was able to learn about the child in the clinic versus the home, and the different aspects of his life that I was able to make suggestions and impact, really moved me to move further into early intervention. And it's really just a whole different avenue to affect a child's life and to be part of the family and figure out the day-to-day challenges, not simply what we find in our clinical evaluations, but what are the real life challenges that they face and help them problem solve. And it's a privilege to be part of that. So I'm stoked.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Marsha?
I just want to very quickly, on behalf of Virtual Health and myself, I would like to take a moment to thank you, First Lady, for hosting this. I appreciate your passion for helping our New Jersey families, and the work that we do is critical in early intervention. And again, thank you for this opportunity to talk about this topic. I have my Master's of Art in Speech Language Pathology that I received at Temple, where I was a recipient of early intervention scholarship. So that's where I first learned about early intervention. And while I have worked in many areas, my emphasis has always been in early childhood. I've had the pleasure of evaluating and assessing and providing ongoing services for children and family in Southern New Jersey and in Pennsylvania. But currently I oversee 100+ extraordinary practitioners that provide early intervention services in New Jersey.
Fantastic. Thank you. We're glad to have Virtual Health with us, that's for sure. So Susan, I don't know if you want to add anything. So I want to make sure, give you that chance if you would like to.
Great, thank you so much. How I got to the seat that I'm in today is a very long road, but I too once sat on the floor and visited homes with kids and families, primarily kids with autism. So back when I started in the field of early intervention, autism, I like to say we did autism before autism was cool, long before, right at the point where the numbers were starting to change and really become alarming in terms of the prevalence of autism. So I came through early intervention through my experience with how to work with infants and toddlers with autism. And that's eventually led me to the state office, which then led me into more and more administrative roles and leadership roles. But there's nothing like what this group is saying. When you see families fresh out of a doctor's office or a clinician's office with a diagnosis of autism or of any kind of developmental disability, and the worry and the concern about how is my infant or toddler going to do, and knowing that we have some skills, some tricks and trades, some tips and some secret magic potions that we can really help those families understand they can take how this can work and give them the support that they need to move forward. There's nothing like it when you see those kids and they move on. And this group will tell you that they all have those. We all hold those stories very dear to us when we do our work.
Thank you all so much. Clearly, there is such a broad range of backgrounds and training for this work, which is equally wide-ranging. Okay, Sheryl, I'm sure this is the first question on the minds of parents. What are some examples of the developmental milestones children typically reach?
Good. Well, children develop at different paces. So there are certain developmental milestones that children should reach by certain times during the first 3 years of life. Some of the examples can include eye contact and social interaction with their friends and family. Could be recognition of their names and familiar objects. Could be using words and gestures to express what they may want or need. It could be using utensils to feed themselves or using cups to drink liquids. It could be to move around their environment independently. It could be rolling, crawling, walking, jumping, climbing stairs. It could also be to learn how to play with toys appropriately, such as simple puzzles or stacking blocks. It could also be how to hold crayons and imitate crayon strokes, especially as they're getting ready to transition to school. So there are quite a few milestones. I'd like to mention, for those who'd like some more information on the milestones, that on the nj.gov website, under Early Intervention Services, there are some wonderful resources, including a pamphlet titled Your Child's Development and a link to a guide titled New Jersey Birth to 3 Early Learning Standards. Both of those resources provide really detailed information on what to expect at different key milestones throughout the child's life. And it also kind of gives you things to look out for, or things that you may want to consider to contact early intervention.
Thank you, Sheryl, so much. It's so important for parents to know what to look for. And I have a related follow-up question for Theresa, but before I do that, I wanted to share that Phil's chief policy advisor was just telling me earlier today that I asked after her baby, and she said, "Oh my gosh, just going through the first phase of separation anxiety. Today she wouldn't go to her dad, and she didn't want to leave. She didn't want me to leave." So it's real, and we all live these little milestones along the way. In any event, Theresa, what should a family do if they are concerned about that their child is not achieving these milestones?
Well, there's a really short answer to that question, and that's called the statewide referral number. And anyone in New Jersey can call this number. That's also on the nj.gov website. And what would happen is you would get in touch with someone who could support you and ask some questions and kind of figure out what the issues are, and possibly recommend having an evaluation. To expand on that a little bit longer, I think it's always really important when you have concerns to go to your resources that you have. Everybody has them, whether it's family, teachers, especially the pediatrician. I think, having support when your gut's telling you that there's something going on is a really important thing. It also might be helpful for caregivers to know what would happen when they call. So once you call the number, if you are going to go forward with an evaluation, a targeted evaluation team would call you and schedule an appointment to do the evaluation. And right now, that looks different. So they would come in your home, they might do telehealth, and they could also maybe be clinic-based depending on what agency you're using. But the great thing about it is once they come out, you'll know right then and there if early intervention is the right option for your family.
And Theresa, just piggyback on to that great explanation, is that what families should know is that that evaluation is at no cost to the family. It is done at public expense. So that is, families should not be concerned with having to have any out-of-pocket expense for that. That is part of the service that is provided through the state's program.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you both, Theresa and Susan. I think it's so helpful for any parent or family member watching today. I also will say that my team is going to make sure that any of the links and the access to these various references that you're making are going to be put here on Facebook.
Great.
Okay, so Marsha and Dan, how do you, as a practitioner, help empower families to support their child's development? Marsha, you want to go?
I guess when you think about those words, when you say empower families, ultimately it is making our families stronger and more confident in their ability to really support their child's development. And even though we may go into the natural environment, with our clinical knowledge and expertise, in order to empower them, we need to start where families and caregivers are. And this can be done by providing education, tools, and resources that will give them the confidence to support their child, especially when we're not there, when we're not present. So it's not just enough to just give them the knowledge. I think the key to really empowering our families is to start where they are and guide them to where they want to be. Dan?
Dan, up to over to you.
I thank you, Marsha. I like that explanation. But I think also one thing that comes out in our sessions where we are experts in our fields, parents realize that they are experts in their child as well. And we help strengthen the bond that is already there, but also the understanding of what's important to the child, what's important to the family, what challenges are unique to them. And that's something that we need to address as part of our services. And when there's concerns that are brought outside of our area of expertise, then we can problem solve with them or refer them to other professionals, other resources, or we can seek our own colleagues' input and get back to the families with those concerns and just try and help strengthen their daily.
And if I can also just add, I think some of the skills that they learn through early intervention, these are lifetime skills, and it has an impact on the relationships that they have with their other children, as well as other children in their families or children that they may come in contact in the community.
Great, thank you. I think knowing that the family plays an important role here is critical to helping any reluctant parent feel comfortable with bringing an early interventionist in to assess and support their child. Okay, Susan, what do you typically recommend to parents who want to work with their children outside of their early intervention session?
There's a whole host of things that the early intervention professionals help families to recognize. I think it's always individualized to the child, to the setting, to their house, to their family, to using their resources and their priorities. I think from a real basic perspective is the takeaway is you don't need expensive toys and you don't need a lot of things that go buzz in the night. Toilet paper rolls and puppets, sock puppets are just as good for getting speech and language and movement and all kinds of adaptive skills as anything that's on the Amazon wish list. It is important, and if you're a family who has an early intervention provider in your home, they really know how to work with what your daily routine is. And if your routine is and your routine is difficulty with the bath time, there's a lot of early intervention work that can happen during the bath, or when your older child is getting off the bus and that witching hour is coming between 4 and 5 when kids are coming home from school. That's what early intervention can help you do, is to help figure out how those routines can be smoother, and that you then carry that through just when our folks are not there, that how you, and it takes time, and families need to celebrate the small milestones and really and they'll see that as it goes through.
Thank you so much, Susan. Again, involving parents in these strategies is not just good for the baby, but I think really encourages any family who is watching who may be on the fence about whether to consult an early intervention team. And I love the comment that you made as well about the quality of the items and the novelty of toilet paper rolls. We've used those a lot. They work with our pets as well. I would like to say that they work with everybody.
Ice cubes are great too. Ice cubes are really great.
Yes, agreed. Especially when you freeze something inside the ice cube.
Exactly.
Really okay, I want to switch gears just a little bit to address some specific questions related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Sheryl and Theresa, In many fields, COVID drastically changed the way care is delivered to patients. How did early intervention support change during the pandemic? So Sheryl?
So while the mission of the program stayed the same, the methods that we had to use to deliver this care had to be modified. We went from being primarily in-home to being virtual delivery, which then meant that we needed to rely on technology. We needed a strong internet connection. We needed access and availability to computers and mobile devices, and parents taking on a more active role. Not only were they carrying out these strategies, but they also had to be cameramen and women. So it also challenged the practitioners because it made us hone in on our coaching skills. We had to make sure that we were presenting information in a user-friendly way, so that the families can understand and implement these strategies. And this includes verbal and written communication, as well as our body language while we're, giving out these strategies. So it definitely had to, we definitely had to make some modifications. And initially it was a little bit tougher getting all the technology pieces together. But I think that once, we got the hang of things, both families, and the practitioners, I think, it ended up working out quite well.
Great. All right, Theresa?
And I just have to say, I was so grateful for the support that we got from the New Jersey Early Intervention System and, our agencies, because it was a tough pivot to make. And I think it was really important to feel that you're competent using it and to make families feel good about what you're doing. And then there's a whole host of new tech things that aren't necessarily the wheelhouse for people that work with babies on the floor. So everyone did such a wonderful job really figuring out what they needed to do. And the patience of families was just unbelievable. And I think I definitely agree with Sheryl in that, I think it really made us emphasize the things that are near and dear to early intervention all along. And that's that piece of keeping the caregiver and the child as the people that are interacting the most important thing. We're there to help them wonder, ask questions, guide, modify. And then I just feel like, in the end, they're the people that are the most important, and we get to help that. And that you can do easily through telehealth.
Great. Thank you so much. Those are really important things to keep in mind, because we are unfortunately not quite out of the woods just yet. Perhaps some of those new skills that you picked up and some of those new ways and whittling down what's really important is going to help you and be a bit of a silver lining, because I'm always looking for them here and now.
And I just wanted to add that some of the focus of what we're doing has changed too. I think, when a parent is stressed and when routines are really thrown off, it really makes a big impact on how a child feels safe. And so helping them develop routines when dad's home one week and brother's at school another week, and just kind of helping provide that stability, I think is something to really focus on. And I've been really glad that I was able to do that with the families that I work with.
Fantastic. Okay, Marsha, Dan, and Susan, can you tell us about a success story or a challenging goal that a family achieved maybe while receiving services through telehealth? Marsha?
Yeah, sure. I could tell you one. I would say prior to COVID, we were probably a little bit more hands-on and provided a lot more direct modeling. But I think I found success in telehealth. And really using the coaching model, the family was able to be empowered sooner, because I think what we saw was a switch in parents being a little more direct in their activities. They're coming up with more ideas. I just think about one family in particular. In person, they were a little bit more removed. And I think it was because I was so more direct in the play and interaction. But when we had telehealth, I think one of the things that we saw was that there was a change. And I think Sheryl had mentioned how we modified how we were doing things. We used more prompting, more cueing, asked more open-ended questions. And I think this was also able to help the family become a little bit more reflective, and helping them become more reflective really supported their child's development. And this went from a child not really saying anything much to a child that was constantly talking, almost to the point where a family was like, oh, can you please stop them from talking? And again, I think a lot of it just had to do with the family really recognizing what was happening and really provided the strategies to support that growth.
Hey, Dan?
What I thought was very successful, I enjoyed seeing the different members of the family and different members of the household get involved in our sessions. I recall one child in particular, his two older sisters really enjoyed participating, and in the beginning of each session, they would come out and say, oh, you have to see what he did this week, the new milestones he hit this week. And I just saw a lot more confidence in their observational skills and what they were able to help the child with from week to week. And that's really where I saw a big difference with the telehealth model, is that families had the hands-on experience, that even though every session in person, we would go over activities that they can carry over, telehealth-wise, they were the ones implementing it. And it might have taken a little bit longer to give all the instructions and to make sure they were able to spot the cues, but they came away with much better understanding of our thought process, what we were trying to accomplish, how we would progress that. And they were very excited to show the progress later. So just the overall involvement of siblings, grandparents, parents was very special in this time.
Perfect. Susan, do you want to respond?
Just want to piggyback on what Dan is saying in that, and what you were saying a little bit too, First Lady, in finding the silver lining to COVID. So in this scenario that Dan's talking about, those older siblings may have been in school when when the early intervention provider would have come to the house this time 2 years ago, not last year, 2 years ago. And so now they were able to see their baby sibling and what was happening while they were at school, because they were in and around it. And so that is at the heart of early intervention, which is the routine. So the routine changed for that family by having kids, not their older siblings, not at school. So early intervention just went with the flow to adapt to their routine. And that, I know we kind of the takeaway question really, or what I always want people to know about early intervention is that it's designed to be within your routines. We're not there to create a new routine called early intervention. If you're going to Chick-fil-A for lunch, let's go to Chick-fil-A for lunch. If your older siblings are home and the babysitter's here, we're gonna do that in that routine. We're not gonna make this new early intervention routine. And COVID really forced that into existence, and it challenged families, it challenged the practitioners. And after we got our feet wet and everybody turned up right side up, we moved forward, right? I mean, I know this gang did, because we saw the progress in those kids. Everybody, pulled together.
These are wonderful anecdotes. Thank you all so much for sharing. I have to say, I continue to be blown away by the dedication, creativity, and persistence of our healthcare and support professionals and our families. Okay, so a few closing questions. I think it's pretty obvious to anyone watching or who has worked with you that all of you are deeply passionate about your work. I wonder if you could share what is the most satisfying part about being an early intervention practitioner. Sheryl, let's start with you.
I guess the most satisfying part for me is that we get to work with these families and children at a very tender time in their lives. mean, often we may be one of the first group of people to inform them of their child's delays, or we may be the first group of people to start giving them instructions or strategies on how to help their child grow. And for some families, it may be a very long journey. For some families, it won't be long at all. So the impression that, we make as healthcare professionals to, be supportive is probably what I really love the most about being an early intervention professional.
Okay, I think we are unfortunately running out of time. So let me ask if I can give each of you just very quickly something you might be able to say. This is like the last comments, unfortunately. So I'll just quickly, Theresa, anything you want to add that you haven't been able to say?
I just want to say that the space that's created when you're spending time with that family during those sessions is just an opportunity for families to forget about the to-do list, forget about everything else they need to do, and hone in on their child and play with the person that you love. And that's really what helps development the most.
Great. Dan?
Just the opportunity to spin a challenge into a positive and show families that, just because it's a bump in the road doesn't, it makes the journey even more valuable and rewarding. It's a privilege to be able to share that with families. That's the thing that I like the most about working in early intervention.
Marsha?
Early detection and intervention is key, and early intervention literally changes the trajectory of a child's life.
Fabulous. Susan?
Just thank you very much for your time and for your continued work to highlight all of the work that our group does in early intervention, but also for all the work you do on behalf of babies and infants and kids for New Jersey. We're very appreciative of your time and of this platform.
Absolutely. I cannot thank you all. Hopefully this interview will spread the word about early intervention, the importance of connecting children as early as possible to supports that boost their development, and all of the incredible work you are doing with our youngest New Jerseyans. I want to thank all of our experts for being with us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I want to thank you for sharing this important information with us. As I said before, this is our 12th episode of Ask an Expert, and it is just incredible and encouraging to know how many fields and professions are dedicated to ensuring our moms, babies, and families are healthy. I hope all of you will take the time to share this episode on your social media. And if you have a loved one who is expecting, please direct them to my page where we have a ton of information and interviews with other experts available. Thank you again for joining us, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.